action.
Hey, Steve Bignani here, and we're doing the model car crawl because it's January in Massachusetts and it's a little too cold and snowy to go to the junkyard for a crawl. And beyond that, if there's snow covering the cars at the junkyard, you can't see them, so what's the point? So I've been an enthusiast of model cars pretty much since the age of 6. Which is like 51 years ago. So along the way I've amassed some tricks and tools that I'll share here. One of the first things I learned to use a long time ago was Superglue, also known as cyanoacrylate, which is this stuff here. The old tester's cement from back in the day. Trouble with this is that it took a long time to dry. And speaking of that, if you can't wait for your superglue to dry, get some of this. This is Kicker. And what this stuff does is basically you spritz this onto the superglue, and instead of drying in 2 minutes, it dries in 15 seconds. So that's the beauty of that. Beyond all that, if you're like me, you like to spray paint and color and detail your models, and that's great. But if you also want to mask them or do a two-tone treatment, like this Golden Commandos. This is the Mobius model from, again, Mobius 65 Golden Commandos car. And you can see that on the back, these effects right here weren't done with a paintbrush. Rather, that is all about masking. So what I do here is I use actual masking tape. Now I used to use regular tape, like Scotch tape or whatever, but I've learned that Tamiya, you choose, makes this. It's very flexible stuff. It's available in wide 18 millimeter or even really narrow 5 millimeter like this. And what you do with that stuff is you can bend it around a curve, just tamp it down, and you can do a figure 8 on a model car. It's that sticky, and the beauty is that the edges of it stick down real hard, so you never get that feather bleed effect where paint gets under the mask and ruins the effect. So masking tape, the right kind, is a key thing. Another detail too is removing parts from the plastic trees. Used to be I just snap them away, and half the time you leave pieces of the car part on the tree. So get yourself a pair of these. These are flush cut snippers. They're available at most hobby shops or even electric supply stores. They're about $6, and these will revolutionize the process of taking the parts off the trees. So those are a major thing to have. There's also little things that are very helpful. And one of the weird things is when you build model cars, of course, the process of painting is it's about having the paint ready at hand. And don't worry so much about the zoom on these. I'll just sort of hold them up and stuff, and maybe I'll just reference. But these are finger paint rings, this crazy little bag of stuff right here. You put these on your finger, I kid you not, and then what you do is you take your paintbrush and you dip it into that while you're working on the part, like that. Rather than reaching over here and having the paint dry, you literally can, dip the paint like that, and then, this is not a paintbrush, but you get the point. So these things are amazing, and they're so inexpensive that you don't clean them, you toss them out. It's like, $2 for a bag of 40 of them. So that's another thing that I've discovered that's very helpful. Other stuff along the way is this stuff here. This is called Bondic, B-O-N-D-I-C. And this basically is UV light activated glue. Here's the device right here, this thing. What you do with this is there's a little tube of glue inside of here. And believe it or not, you put the glue on, you sort of build up, and then you hit it with UV light, like that. And what this does, it instantly cures the glue, but it's actually plastic. So what you can do is fill gaps or even build up a wall, but just laying a line of this on, hitting it, build it up, hit it, build it, hit it up. And so it's pretty amazing, 21st century stuff that can be used in model building. And again, it's called Bondic, B-O-N-D-I-C. Yeah, this stuff right here, Bondic. It's like maybe $25, but it's better than using plastic filler by far, and it helps to really do things that you couldn't otherwise do with cement or putty. And beyond all that, speaking of putty, there's this stuff right here, Milliput. This is a British product. It's kind of a water-based thing, and with this and also this green power stuff, this is 2-part epoxy. You mix the 2 parts, but the good news is these things stay pliable and soft for about an hour. So if you want to make like a little mannequin or an engine block or a transmission, whatever, you could actually make the rough shape with this stuff and then begin to carve it and shape it before it kicks and hardens. You have an hour to work it. So Milliput's pretty cool stuff. It's very helpful for model building. And then beyond that, we have, if you like to weather, In many cases, building a model car, you get the details good, there's the underside of the car, but the reality of most cars is there's some grease, there's some grime, so weathering is an important thing. So this right here is the weather system. This is a series of dust powders that you just basically brush on, dust them on, and it self-adheres to the car. If you want, you can spray some dull or clear over it to trap it in place forever. But this kind of stuff here is really good for weathering, and it brings the model to the next step in terms of realism. Another really cool thing are these. These are sanding needles, right? Now, historically, when you sand something, you're going to use a file, like this kind of a deal right here. It's flat. It's good for flat surfaces, but these little sanding needles, they take things to a whole new dimension. They have a sharp point, and you can actually get into a crevice with this little sharp, and that's gritty. That doesn't come off. This is integrated into the structure, so it never wears out. You can sand away into a little corner of a window or whatever it is. So these are pretty cool. Another couple of things that are, I think this is pretty cool. This thing right here. This is a sticky parts holder, right? You take the tip off, and this is like a sort of a nylon, some kind of a weird material that you can hold apart. Oh, hang on. There you go, like that. And it's like space age weird stuff, but it's really sticky, probably based on seaweed or octopus blood or who knows what. But this little device right here, if you don't have a third hand and can't use tweezers to hold that magneto as you put it into the engine, just grab it with this little puppy right here, and it'll stick, and you can mount it with your super glue. So this is a really cool thing right here. A couple other goodies too. If you're applying putty to a model car of any kind, whether it's Bondo or that Milliput, this is an application tool. The ends of it are really thin, they're spade-like, and here's one sort of like a little cup end. You can actually use this stuff to form and move the putty into cracks and crevices. Good stuff. So again, it looks like a dental tool. It looks painful, but it's not. It's actually for model building. And there's tons and tons of stuff. This little guy right here, this is a sanding board. This thing here you would use like that. But the thing is, these are adhesive, these little strips of sandpaper right here. So you can take them off when they wear out, put them on, and they're even different grits. So these are very helpful for block sanding a panel or whatever it might be, versus the old way of putting this stuff on your thumb and getting a wavy surface. So the same stuff that applies in real car world applies in models as well. And then final bit of stuff here, I guess, is the good old Exacto Blade, number 11 Exacto Blade. The beauty here is that these come in a variety of different shapes. For instance, this is the number 11, it's flat and straight. Well, a lot of guys don't realize they also make them with this sort of step, this taper right here, which allows you to get into a little tiny spot, and chip away like that, where there's a little less surface area, but it has the same sharpness as the number 11. And finally, just so much, it's what to leave out. Oh yeah, one thing too is the old pin drill. This puppy right here. This is a drill that you can use to put holes in things. I used to take an Exacto knife and just basically ream and create the hole till it was round and the right size. But if you really looked at it, it was sort of V'd, it was like a crater. This is an actual drill, but the beauty, it has this little tip on the end right there that rotates. So you put this in your palm and you just twist. Like that, ow. But anyway, that's basically the beauty of this, and you can undo this as different size drill bits. So if you want to put lightning holes or Swiss cheese the frame of that 62 Pontiac Catalina model by AMT, you use this tool here to create the holes you need. And I could go on forever, but I will say one of the best things is a plastic organizer tray, like this thing right here. I used to have, piles of parts everywhere, but this allows you to basically have a little compartment for the body, one for the chassis, one for the engine, and from model to model, process to process. You can use this and empty it out, or in many cases buy a bunch of these things and have several model cars going at the same time, and this way everything you need is in one spot. You just pick it up, put it over there, grab the other one, start that model. So these organizing trays are really cool. These are about 11 bucks. They're made of plastic, and these are great. So these are just a small amount of the things that go beyond the usual paint, glue, kit, brush. There's also the world of airbrushing, which is another video from another time. And frankly, I'm not an airbrush guy. I use rattle cans because, well, they work. And this is Tamiya. I love this stuff. It's really good. It goes on really flat. It dries sharp and crisp. So I'm still a rattle can guy, but anyway, it's all about what to leave out. So we'll be back later with more. But if you like this video, and keep in mind, we certainly will be going back to the junkyard for more junkyard crawls, and of course back to High Octane Classics in Auburn, Massachusetts for more muscle car crawls under the hoods of those Cobras and those SS396s. More of that stuff for sure, but model cars are also part of the universe. So if you like this video, stick around. There's more, and of course more junkyard crawl. It's all here at the Steve Bignanti YouTube channel. Please subscribe.